We're not against rap. We're not against rappers. But we are against those.
Something big about to happen. I hear the beat tapping. We some fly rhyming felines rapping on the track. Better yet, grab a gat, cause we hot like Enzo. Doors closed, windows up, cause that's the way we like to ride. Windy City hitting. Check mic 1 2 1 2. We live, baby. Hey, Chicago, and welcome back to another episode of Speak Your Mind Radio. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Queen Star, and today we have a very special guest with us. He is a well-known LA filmmaker of such movies like the 2017 Cowgirl Story and the 2006 Prison of the Psychotic Damned. He also has experience shooting your favorite YouTube parodies like Kanye West, Rihanna, and Paul McCarthy's 4 or 5 Seconds, and Taylor Swift's Blank Space. And in addition, he also has shot some of the top brands of commercials that you see on your TV screen daily. Everything from Toyota to Kellogg's. And now, guys, he is the director of photography of an all-black cast studio series called Double Cross, now streaming on UMC. So everyone, please give a warm welcome for my guest, cinematographer, Matthias Saunders. Hey.
Hey, what's up, Star? How you doing?
I'm doing good, and you?
I'm doing great.
That's good. Well, Matthias, thank you for being here today. I appreciate you.
No problem.
And I like to start off all my interviews with an icebreaker question. So let's get into it.
Okay.
What's your life like as a cinematographer during a pandemic?
Well, that's a good question. I think I'm finding that out for the first time, but it's very interesting because, for me as a cinematographer, the work that I do involves collaboration. So it's very, very, very hard to be a working cinematographer during a pandemic when everybody's locked up and home and all that. But there have been some cinematographers currently, they've been doing some shooting by themselves, but I'm not really that type of cinematographer. I like to tell stories. I like to work with filmmakers. What I have been doing is I have been really just focusing on pulling out a number of scripts and properties that I have the options to, and taking this time to really rework them and getting them ready for production. And just excited at the opportunities that they're going to bring. And this pandemic has been really good about just getting that time to stop and just work on some things and that need to be addressed when you don't have time to do it when you are working.
Right. When you're busy and out, you don't have time to make those itty bitty corrections.
Yeah. Right. You need time to sit down. You need time to read. There's a lot of reading involved, and I had an opportunity to really do a lot of that. I need to do more, but again, as we all do. But yeah, it's been an interesting pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. It has been interesting and very life learning too.
Yeah, very, very life learning. Very getting a chance to see some very, very interesting things, and very, very. I tell you, it's a very, very exciting time for a documentary filmmaker. If you are a documentary filmmaker right now, I feel as a cinematographer for 25 years, I think this is a very, very exciting time to grab your camera and get out and go. There are some things that are happening right now that that need to be documented.
Yes.
And it's very important. We need to keep the content creation happening. We need to keep the discussions happening in all forms, whether it's protesting, whether it's in our writing, whether it's in our dialogue, and whether it's in the films that we make. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. What you said basically is don't stop the creativity,
No.
Just to keep it flowing. And I've had people say that to me before. It's very important that we document what's going on during the good times and the bad times.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I will tell you, like, how important documentation right now is going to be, especially in our digital age. Documenting just these historical events that are happening are very, very important, because since we are in a digital age, things are moving a lot faster. So information is flowing a lot faster. Visual information is flowing through to us in a lot faster than it used to be. Mm-hmm. I was telling my son, I said, one of the big differences that I feel, being where we're having the protests and marches, was that he's experiencing that, and it's happening so much quicker and so much faster compared to when I was at the Million Man March. I was one of the cameramen at the Million Man March, and I was at the steps of the Capitol.
Wow.
And I saw 2 million Black men and women assemble on the steps of the Capitol. 2.5 million.
Wow.
With no Twitter, no Facebook. These things did not exist then. So again, and we can see now that we have a generation that don't even know that even it happened.
Right.
Even that was even capable within the movement that they are trying to create right now, that we are creating right now. So that's what I'm saying. Documentation is going to be very important. We've done it before, and we've done it without social media, and we did it peacefully. I was there. I have photographs from black and whites shot on film. I didn't have a digital camera, and so, like, I remember rolling into DC with a backpack of, I had 64, no. Excuse me. I had 60 rolls of 36 exposure, 35 millimeter black and white film.
Dang, look at you.
You can count that.
Woo.
You can count that, You can multiply that up, and you can tell that's how many opportunities I had a chance to document something. So, when you look at, we have basically cell phones in our hands that can take unlimited pictures, can take a quality way beyond what I was even capable of doing. Even though, you see how important documenting and creating content and putting out there to show is important. It is very, very important. You know what I'm saying? Creating our own networks, creating our own information highways, and talking about issues and communicating them clearly are important, are very, very important.
Oh my God. Oh, you just said a mouthful of right there.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That makes me want to pick your brain even more now.
Well, I'm here to speak my mind. This is the first time I've ever been been interviewed in this type of way. So, you tell me what you want to hear. I mean, you can ask me whatever you like.
Okay. Well, for one, why don't you tell me in your own words, your own definition, what the difference is, between a cinematographer and a film director, or
Okay, all right. Well, a cinematographer, and we're referred to as director of photography. Sometimes you may be heard of us referred in that way.
Of course,
we may be given that title. We work with the director in creating the visual storytelling to stories that they want to tell. So we craft that visual, and we support them in their vision and what they want to communicate. The film director is the person who drives the ship. It's definitely has a story to tell, and we work to make that happen, bring that to fruition. And basically, that's what we do. Yeah.
That's interesting and creative, to say the least. Yeah. Okay, so let's really get into it. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and how you broke into the entertainment industry, and kind of like what your life was like growing up, trying to figure out, your lifelong dreams. This is what I want to do.
Okay. All right. Well, briefly, I got started at a young age. My father was a British West Indian.
Wow.
Engineer from St. Kitts. I grew up in Sandusky, Ohio. I was born in England.
Dang.
And then we came to the United States. I came to the United States when I was 3 years old. And I grew up in Sandusky, Ohio, between Cleveland and Toledo. Not too far from Chicago. We got to Chicago pretty regularly ourselves. So, we always went there to have a good time.
Definitely.
And so I grew up in that household, and, my father had always put a very high value on photographs and in the photo book, in the camera. And it was one thing he always put up in the shelf, and I couldn't get to it. He didn't want me messing with it. and he told me, from a very young age, he said, one of the reasons why he values photographs and images so much is because growing up, he never had, as a kid growing up in the island, he never had pictures.
Man.
So that was so that, as a young kid, that sparked curiosity. Well, what's it? What is this? So, I grew up a reader. Mm-hmm. So, boom, I was in the books reading, from day one. Mm-hmm. And, that was instilled in me by my father. So, it was something I was really, really attracted to. And my mother was the one that really encouraged. She saw that I had an interest in this, so she supported that. So she was the one that got me my first cameras, back in the day as a kid. She got me my first Super 8s. She bought me my first video camera that I took to college. Aww. And that was great because I thought I was the it, because I had the VHS camera with the color viewfinder, which was brand new tech back then, where you could actually look through the viewfinder and see it in color. Mm-hmm. Because pretty much viewfinders back then were black and white always. Wow. So I had I had the color joint. I was up, and I went to did my freshman year at Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio, and did the film program. But I was always involved. From an early age. I was the video guy. Mm-hmm, I was that guy, and then I'm technically inclined, so I got attracted to lighting really quickly.
Cool.
And then also special effects and things like that. So I was attracted to these things at a very young age, and just being able to read them and having American Cinematographer subscription at a very young age. Wow. And being encouraged to read. Mm-hmm. My father was very, very strict on that, on reading. So, and, making us read aloud and stand in the middle of the room, he was pretty strict. So those type of disciplines, I think, allowed me to gravitate to those things very quickly, and just getting my first camera and making little movies in the backyard with my little sister and my cousins when they would come visit. I'm sure there's a VHS copy of Black Bowl 1 and 2 and 3 floating around in our family somewhere. Somebody didn't admit it, but somebody took it. But we did make a black version of Rambo when we were kids, and it was good. But that's just kind of the childhood of it. But when I got to college, I was very, very active in freelance by then. And, I did my freshman year at Wright State University. And then after that, I realized, the film school route was not the going all the way through film school was not the route for me. I was active. I was working. I wasn't theory. I was actually executing lighting and executing camera setups, for freelance while I was in college. So, I was just like, I need to step it up. So I did my freshman year there. And then I moved to New York City and,
cool.
And I was in New York. This was now we're talking like 93, 94, like there was a lot, it was, the film industry then was very, very focused. If you were in it, you were focused to be in it. It was not anything leisurely about it. It was a craft then. So I trained. I looked for every opportunity. I trained. I got to NYU, spent a little time there. And then just being in the freelance game, I started shooting a lot of early hip hop 90s videos.
What?
Yeah. And then being able and just dabbling in that, because one, I could get access to equipment. And back then, folks wasn't really paying a lot of money. Labels, if you had got signed, you only got, labels like, okay, we'll give you $2,500 and you had to pay half for your video. So like if you wanted a $5,000 video, you had to at least come up with $2,500. So, a lot of those videos started happening where we'd shoot like 3-4 videos in one, 48, 72 hour period, just folks collaborated back then because they, everybody was getting on. And then, that translated into working on being in New York. That ended up me translating and working on studio pictures because since I was in New York, you had the studios there, you had Kaufman Astoria there. So I ended up getting on major studio films and PAing and working my way up through the ranks and just connecting, with people in the industry and, and networking, heavy networking. Yeah, heavy networking. And, I can honestly say I can honestly say it was lily white back then, very. And, just, you had to, sometimes you had to step and fetch it a little bit back then because, you were learning your craft. You were making a way. You saw it going in a certain direction. So it's like, it was craft building, there was a true apprenticeship back then. Where if you wanted to be in the industry, you had to find someone to apprentice you.
Yes, exactly.
So, and it was a little bit different than mentorship because you hear mentorship a lot now, but mentorship looks a lot different than what apprenticeship is. Apprenticeship, you are actually working, you're there, you're active, you're engaging, you're in the industry and you're making waves, people know you, you're building relationships and recognition. So you just got to work and get in there and make it happen. And one thing that, kind of work ethic I brought to the table is, the work ethic that my father did instill in me.
Right.
and I brought that to the table, and that was one of the things that really people gravitated to was my work ethic. Wow. My father was a tradesman, so I had no problems getting my hand dirty.
Right.
It by contrast, I'll show up on set, now, and folks got Jordans on. That's the first thing I look at. I look at the shoes.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, like if they're showing up with, Air Force One first editions and stuff like that, I know that person's not going to work that day.
Right.
These are things that, you recognize,
Yeah.
little things. So, I mean, it's just you make your way. And then being on these studio films, you get connected to the next studio film. And I worked on a lot of early studio films. And then what I would do is I would take these techniques that I was learning on my studio films and go back home to the Midwest and shoot and use those techniques to shoot independent films. People that had no money, so, and so like, I remember, back in the day, like, I had the cameras and I had big 35 mils. I think you can go up on my Instagram and you can see old school pictures of me with her. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I was coming back to the local town, local hometown. It's like, look, we can do this. We can make a film. And that's how I kind of got a reputation in the Midwest to be the go-to guy to, that could make your indie film, And so by doing that, I got a chance to get connected and tell a lot of different stories that appeal to everyone. Mm-hmm. I ended up working with a lot of different types of directors and telling different stories. I had started shooting a lot of horror films back then.
Yeah, right.
And it was like real hardcore
horror,
like Midwestern horror films,
Right.
And I was approaching these things from like, okay, well, I was raised in a household where I was not allowed to shoot this stuff. So I was creative. I wasn't allowed to see it. We didn't have that stuff in our household. So like, I was able to approach these projects from a completely open mind,
wow.
a completely creative space.
Oh my God.
Like I remember, like, for example, you talked about Prison of the Psychotic Damned.
Right.
Yeah. So I shot that film back in the day.
Uh-huh.
That was a film that we shot at the Buffalo train terminal. Now, in Buffalo, New York. We shot the whole thing there in this building. Now, if you Google it, you will see it. This building has been condemned since like, I don't know, 60s. They say it's haunted. It's, it's had a lot of preservation societies in it. But this is one of those projects, like I said, where I was home and I got the call and they're like, yo, we want to shoot this horror movie. These guys, blah, blah, blah. They'll pay you this much. I'm like, okay, let's go. And next thing you know, I'm in this Buffalo train terminal with very little power. I think I had maybe 2 electrical outlets in the whole place. I had 4 lights and, and a cast of like, 15 people,
right?
Prosthetics, I got scream queens running around half naked in a frozen building in the middle of November with counting down to when the snow will come. And I had the time of my life.
Yeah, I bet you did.
And the thing about it is that if you go back and look at the movie and you go back and you look at the film, and I look back at how little I had to work with, but how much movie we came away with.
Right.
It fascinates me. And again, it's one of those old school horror flicks. It was one of like early Netflix. I remember when that was like one of the first, when that movie came out, that was like one of the first early films that Netflix put out when Netflix was still doing DVDs.
Right.
And I remember they getting that real early on. I'm like, what is this Netflix thing? This is weird, Next, mailing DVDs, So that was a little bit ago. But like, again, I love shooting the independent films, and and I would shoot that movie, and I make, you make acquaintances with people that connect you. It was like one of my first horror movies shooting like that, and I remember when the PAs was there, and they're like, all the PAs are like super horror fans, and they're like asking me like, yo, did you see this movie, Matthias? I'm like, no. And they're like, oh my God, this looks so much like it. No way. I can't believe you haven't seen this movie. Yo, I work in a video store out in Idaho, and I'm going to send you a spindle of 100 horror movies that you got to watch.
Dang.
And you know what? And did. They did. And like, we wrapped, and like, I was home, and like 2 weeks later, a package comes. And it literally was a spindle. She ripped the top 100, because I told her I wasn't a horror. I didn't grow up watching this stuff. She's like, okay, I got you. She's like, she sent me a spindle of 100 horror movies you must watch.
Okay.
To even understand it.
Yeah.
And it was everything. I mean, from across the board, like beyond Nosferatu, all the way up to like Amy, like independent films, but also mainstream films. The zombies were represented. The Japanese were represented. The Germans were represented in this collection. And I watched them all. And I was able, from that spindle of DVDs, I was able to come away with a really good working knowledge to apply that to other horror movies, which I went to go on to shoot after that. And I'm very, very grateful for that, because now I feel like I have a good perspective on that genre, that, is pretty open, whereas, someone may have not been exposed to films like that.
Yeah. Look, I am speechless right now, because listening to you talk, and you pretty much answered all the questions that I had set aside, because I had so many questions to ask you. I'm serious. You answered it, because when I was looking at your resume, I'm like, oh my God, like, he has really done a number of horror films. And you just put me in this collective space where you're like, okay, you told me from day one how you were inspired to even pick up a camera. And that was instilled from your father and your mother. Your mother was the nurturer, and your father was the provider, and he made you read. He disciplined you. He gave you, you come from an era of true workmanship, okay? Because this generation, I'm just being real, and the generation I came from, we ain't work that much, okay? Because social media, if I want to look up a word, all I have to do is put it in Google. That's it.
Exactly.
You all went to the actual dictionary, the Webster Dictionary, and looked it up,
Exactly. Like, and and that's the thing, like, when the younger generation, I mentioned that, like, yo, I had the Britannicas. Like, I remember them coming to the house, knocking on the door, and begging my dad, please, Dad, please, please, please get these Britannicas. Like, and they came in big boxes, never forget, and had a shelf of them. And that was the reference, and that's why, again, I try to tell the younger generation, I'm like, don't get too, I tell this to my son all the time. I said, don't chill down a little bit. Chill. I know y'all got access to everything, but chill for a second. You got to also understand how are you receiving this information?
Right.
That's a big deal. I think that's a big deal. You know what I'm saying? How are you receiving it? Are you getting it in a blip? Or are you focused at digging in and learning some information, take a moment and take in something and digest it, and then, okay, let me decide where I'm going to go from here. Let me decide what action I'm going to take from here. I think that's lacking, and I'm not saying that, please, in any way in any negative way to the generation, but as far as maybe helping to understand a point of view, I just tell them, Google deeper.
You said Google deeper.
It's not just the first 5 hits. You got to Google deeper. And I think it's a greater responsibility now, and it translates back, in everything, in life. But I mean, for me to kind of bring it back to, as a filmmaker, a cinematographer, I'm always researching. I'm always looking for opportunities to learn more. Right. And I think that's I think where the discipline is to open and expand your boundaries and being open to things. And then too, things have changed a lot with just being a filmmaker. Everybody's a filmmaker now. Right. Everybody's a filmmaker now. So it's now, I think now that since it's accessible, I think that the responsibility is greater. Wow. Yeah, I do.
How so? Why do you think the responsibility is greater, although it's easier access?
Because now you have the power to communicate directly and distinctly. That's power. Yeah. That's power. And, when it wasn't accessible, and you had to work for it, you had to make an extra effort to get the access, as a filmmaker back in the day, I wasn't always given access to the equipment. I had to go get it. I had to really make an effort to go get it. There's a lot of times I remember early on in my career, I couldn't find people to rent to me because I was a minority, I was Black, So I would have to drive 2-3 states away, to even deal with people that would do business with me. People that would like, okay, well, if you roll up here with cash, I'll do business with you. I like the stories I could tell. And again, it's accessible. Now we have power in our hands. You know what I'm saying? And I think the responsibility is much greater now because we need to take greater responsibility with what we're communicating.
Agreed. It's like you have the power, but what are you going to do with it?
Exactly.
Love talking to you already. I got a couple of more questions. Now you said in the 90s, about 94, 93, you were in New York, correct? Right.
Yeah.
What 90s hip hop videos did you shoot? Because I did not see that on your resume.
Well, I worked on a lot of old school videos. I don't know if you remember Das Effects. We're talking about early videos, Das Effects. I remember, early Busta Rhymes videos, Leaders of New School, Far Side, Diggable Planets.
What?
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Early Wu-Tang video.
What?
Yeah.
What?
But I look back on that and it's like, it was, you gotta understand, like, back then, everybody, like, if you was, like, it was everybody at the start. So basically, think of all your indie artists now that are just trying to jump off on social media.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Think of it like that, but they were getting radio play, regional radio play.
Right, exactly.
So like they, like they were just about to like step through that door. And at that time, everybody was everybody, you know what I'm saying? So like, we don't have the events like we had back then. We don't have the industry events anymore. Like we don't have the Jack the Rappers, you know what I'm saying? So like the Jack the Rapper event was the hip hop event back in Atlanta back in the day. We don't have that stuff, those type of events anymore. Mm-hmm. So nobody really seen each other. You know what I'm saying? Back then, you'd be standing there at the convention and y'all networking and, up walks Busta Rhymes trying to slide a tape to somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, for real. Like, it was like that. Craig Mack, like, yo, sliding a tape to somebody. Yo, check it out. We had that cohesiveness because that's how we knew about each other. You know what I'm saying? So, that networking is there. Now, we have, I think it's more of an isolated type of artist.
Yes.
Especially in music. There's more of an isolation about the artist. So I think you get tapped on, you get put onto artists, but by the time you're really on them, you've been on them a little while. Yeah, it's all different,
Man, you just said a lot, like a lot of gems and diamonds. You know what I'm saying? This is like a music podcast and you hitting on everything. And it's also a real life podcast where people come to tell and share their stories, Yeah. And what you just said about the, oh my God, being in the 90s and then having Busta Rhymes come and slide you a tape, those were in the beginning stages of who these people stay. And I really think that is magnificent because networking is key. Now, I've noticed in my time that a lot of artists that are independent, they don't have the self-knowledge of how to network, how to connect with other people, not just your fans, but with people.
Right.
I see a lot of that. I'm like, oh gosh, like if people just talk to each other, we'll be in a better place,
Yeah, that's true. That was the one thing I could say back in the 90s and early 2000s, there was definitely discussion going on. You know what I'm saying? You were connected to people, you would go to a conference and see Diddy there sitting there talking to, you know what I'm saying? You would walk up, you would go to an event and, Faith and Total is right there, you know what I'm saying? And you talking to them and you networking with them, and if they feel like, everybody tried to slide tapes to everybody, you know what I'm saying? Yo, type of thing. But you had to make an effort. You had to present yourself, and it was also a little thing too about like, well, am I going to take your tape or not type of thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so if they take your tape, it was going to be based upon your presentation, how you interacted with them. And I think that's, I don't want to make this a podcast about what may be lacking, but, just a little observations, that I want to relay. I don't want to really, turn anybody away,
No.
But it is what it is.
Okay, so let me get back on track because like I said, you're saying a lot of information that I think people can benefit from, if they just listen. Shoot. Okay. Let's talk about crap. Yeah, let's talk about your work day. Like describe, and this obviously is before the pandemic happened, but describe your schedule like, for a film director. Like, I mean, take a step by step of the process that you go through.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, do you want me to speak about a specific project or you want to,
yeah, when you're working on a project.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just take, for example, what I'll use, for example, like Double Cross.
Okay.
Which is on streaming on UMC right now.
Great show, by the way, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Right on that. Like a typical day for me on Double Cross would consist of, I'd have maybe a 6 o'clock call on set, and we'd go 12 hours. We never went beyond 12 hours, which is typical. You want that, but on that show we only shoot 5 days a week. We shoot for 4 weeks, and we'll see what the next schedule is. But that show is shot at a pretty sane type of schedule. I try to keep. I try to have my schedule be as sane as possible, because it helps with the overall production. Now I can tell you, I am a veteran of the crazy hours. I am a veteran of many 48-hour film festivals.
Cool. So,
I've shot films from beginning to end in 48 hours, short films, narrative films. So I know how to work in that space too, as well, as far as, soup to nuts and shooting a long time over long hours. But for a show like Double Cross, we typically shoot a pretty sane schedule. And like I said, the reason why is because we have a lot of glam squad on the show. And we have what's important, Crystal Gibson, the director and showrunner.
Crystal Gibson, yep.
Yeah, what's important for her is, she wants them to look good. She knows what she wants. So,
yep.
We do that, and just making sure we have time for that, and just I work in more or less an organized fashion where if I know, how much time I need to do what I need to do, I just coordinate with the different department heads, and we work it out to where, they're not waiting on us. I'm saying we'll be ready when the actors are ready, and the wardrobe is ready too. Because those are some very essential parts of the show by design. And so, those are some things that, we respect on the show. Yeah. So, but schedule, definitely we keep it pretty sane. When I'm shooting but again, I could shoot, it just depends on working on, if I'm doing something that's all night sequences and stuff like that, we flip our days, and we shoot, all night long, and we sleep all day. And,
that is so cool.
Yeah.
That is really amazing. So are you guys done shooting the first season of Double Cross?
Yeah, first season of Double Cross is done and streaming right now on UMC.
Which is why I only watched 4 episodes, because I'm waiting on the 5th.
The fifth episode actually posted, what's today, Friday?
Thursday, yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. So you should check it out.
Okay.
And then actually today I just got some confirmation that we are going to be going for a second season.
Season 2, yay!
Season 2, so... But I don't know, I'm saying, definitely, it's exciting. I'm exciting. I love shooting the show. And I just love the opportunity to create content for UMC. I really believe in having a Black streaming network.
Yes.
And actually having some variety in it, and that's something that I was excited about to bring to UMC with Double Cross. It's something different. It's something unique. It's something itself, and it doesn't look like everybody else because it has a different feel to it. It's darker, and I feel there's space for all those type of stories there.
Definitely. And I actually have a couple more questions, but I want to keep talking about the series of Double Cross. When I watched it, that first episode is what drew me in. Yes, because I did not expect for some drama to happen already. I'm like, oh my God, I got to watch the second episode now. I got to know what happened. And the actors are phenomenal. You know, I love the fact that it caters to an all Black cast. I think that's extraordinary, especially during this time that we're living in. Well, all these centuries really, but you know, so my next question is, how did you become affiliated with UMC?
I was brought onto the project by one of the producers and directors, Dale Steely. I had worked with Dale on a couple of shows prior to that, and he, you know, when we were working on any other shows, he was like, dude, I like working with you. And I told him, I said, look, I'm a narrative guy. I love shooting stories and shooting different stories. And I'm like, if you got anything, just let me know. And he hit me up, and he brought me to Double Cross. And I'm thankful for that, because that's, you know, telling those type of stories are right up my alley. I really do enjoy telling them.
Definitely. And for anyone that's listening there today, take the time, take the opportunity to go to UMC, go to their website, and look at all the shows that they have there. They did, you know, Double Cross is a really great show. They are on their first season, and they have 5 episodes so far, but it's easy to get caught back up again. I mean, I'm telling you guys, I don't want to give away too much, but I'll just say this is a story about twins, a boy and a girl. One is a doctor and one is like, you know, from the streets and everything. And they are taking matters into their own hand with these scumbag criminals on the street, you know, because the police don't always do their job, so to speak. But, you know, sometimes we as citizens have to make the change for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, go check that show out, everybody. So I think you will like it. But moving on, in a sense, I have some more questions for you.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so Matthias, let's talk about your impressive resume that we've been talking about all this time. Okay, you have 20 years of professional experience and over 37 independent films under your belt. It's no wonder that they call you the notorious DOP. So let's talk more about that name.
Yeah. So it was a name that had that was given to me a long time ago, like back in the day in Midwest. I was, like I said, I was shooting a lot of independent films, and, you know, be completely honest, you know, there were no Black independent filmmakers in the Midwest that were doing things like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, one guy, you know, that's, you know, kind of like shooting independent movies who had the gear and all that. You know, I do know there was a couple other guys in a couple other states. I think there was a dude up in Chicago, I forget his name, that had come to me. We used to, you know, see each other on MySpace back in the day.
Cool.
But like, you know, I mean, I don't want to get off the subject there, but, you know, I mean, I've been shooting independent films for a long time, and it's just something I enjoy, you know, and I make it happen, you know, type of thing.
Yeah. You definitely that guy to make things happen, just based off everything that we talked about. But what's the most rewarding production you've worked on thus far, and why? And don't include Double Cross.
Rewarding. Wow. You know, they're all kind of, I would say they're all rewarding in their own right, because it's like, you know, they all have a purpose. You know, I shoot for a living, so I'm definitely shooting with a purpose. And when you come across some that are, you take on like, okay, I'm doing something really good here. I'm really doing something that's going to affect people in a positive way. I wouldn't say it's the most rewarding, but it is one that ranks up there pretty high with me, is that I was the director of photography and ended up being one of the post-producers on the New American Road Trip. It was a project that had been brought to me by another DP. He had referred me. And basically, we went cross-country in 2 electric vehicles from San Francisco all the way to New York for New York Climate Week. And we stopped along the way to highlight different people or different individuals that were doing great work with sustainable energy and an electric car. And it was great because I got a chance to see firsthand what it's like to cross the United States in an electric car. And I will tell you this: if you are a young individual that has the finances and credit and means to purchase an electric vehicle, you must do that. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying it for any particular stance. I'm just saying it for to preserve your financial future.
Okay.
I know we get into having these big cars, flashy cars, and Lambos and all this and all that. We want to have this and the Beamers and the Benzes, but really consider making space in your plans for an electric vehicle. On that project, I got a chance to really see the benefits of it on a lot of different firsthand levels. I was interviewing people across the country. We started in San Francisco. I hopped on in Vegas and went from Vegas all the way to New York City. And we stopped in different towns. We stopped in St. Louis, where Mayor Sly, who's a Black mayor there, he was first time elected official. He was an attorney there in St. Louis for a long time, and he just decided, you know what, I'm going to run for mayor, and he won. And one of the first thing he did to put on his agenda was to make St. Louis sustainable, and his city sustainable. And the impact that it had on the city financially, they love that man. He finished out. He was mayor there for as long as they would let him, and the impact. So, you come across and get on a project, and you're involved in the conversation. You're seeing some things from a different perspective, and you have to see it from an objective perspective as well, being a cinematographer. So I'm documenting this, but I'm also gleaning the information, and I'm like, wow. And you're expanding your mind, and then that adds to the photography too as well, because then that determines how I'm going to capture that individual, how I'm going to present this story. So I must say the New American Road Trip is definitely one of the more rewarding things that I've done. Just being able to be part of that conversation. You can see it's on YouTube.
Okay.
It actually, what we did was we created comedy sketches based upon some of the stops we went. And so that's what we did. We ran it parallel with Funny or Die. So when we came back from the trip, Funny or Die picked it up, and then we did these comedy sketches along the storyline with it. So we were able to present it, the importance of the subject matter with comedy, and also with the education part too as well. So that's on there too, on YouTube. So many things. I've done a lot of LGBT content too as well.
Yes, Paz Ross.
Yeah, Paz Raz, which just got nominated for a bunch of awards, and
Great show.
And I'm very proud of Paz Raz, and getting able to communicate that as well. Communicating awareness of HIV within the Black community.
Yes. Man.
Yeah, check it out. That's on YouTube too.
I've been binge watching it. 110 episodes.
You been watching Paz Raz?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Ever since I checked out again your resume, third time you saying that.
Yeah.
I love new stuff, so
Yeah. Paz Raz is great. Carlton Jordan, he's a great writer director. I can't wait to see what he come up next. Paz Raz is the second web series I shot with him. So you should also check out his previous web series. I forget the name of it. I'm sorry, but just look up Carlton Jordan and you'll see all his web series. He did Paz Raz and another one we did together too as well.
Thank you. I will reference that.
Yeah.
Love it.
I'm sorry. It's called Love Handles.
Love Handles. Yeah.
Yeah, Love Handles. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that was the same director.
Yeah, same director. Love Handles. Yeah, Carlton Jordan. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
So now it's something else I can watch because I really don't. Well, now I have 3 things to watch to finish watching.
Yeah.
Double Cross, Paz Raz, and Love Handles.
Yeah. Love Handles. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you a question since we're talking about different directors. Which filmmakers have influenced you most and why?
Okay. If filmmakers that influenced me most and why. I have to be honest and say, the filmmakers that influenced me are the ones that I was directly exposed to and the ones that I was directly engaged with along my career. Mm-hmm. So, and that definitely I have to put at the top of the list, Spike Lee.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
And I put it there because Spike Lee showed me and taught me how to be an independent filmmaker. Okay. And people don't talk about that. Everybody wants to talk about Robert Rodriguez and all that, and that's great. Robert Rodriguez, just showed like, hey, I'm going to make my movie and I'm going to do it by any means necessary. You know what I'm saying? Spike was doing the same thing. That's who I saw. That's who I was exposed to when I was coming up. You know what I'm saying? Finally, I have this dream of wanting to make films. All of a sudden, there's a little short black brother in New York doing this, and he's killing it. Yes. Right. And it's so everything he did, I was there first day. Everything he did, I studied. And the thing too is I highly encourage, if you're a filmmaker, you go and get Spike's books that he published on all of his films. He published books of how he made the films from She's Gotta Have It all the way to Malcolm X. Wow. He made paperback books of it back in the day. Again, get into those books and read that, and you will see the process. You're not just going to observe a process. Oh, there's Spike, and he made his movie. No, you're going to really learn the process that he took. He tells you, his little daily schedule. He has his day 12. These things, you have the little inserts of Ernest Dickerson talking about what they were doing that day. You know what I'm saying? You have his diaries. Wow. Again, these are things that I think some of the younger filmmakers are not even on their radar, and they should, because, Spike again knocks it out. He coming for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like the Five Bloods, again, he coming for everybody. World critically acclaimed filmmaker, and definitely my inspiration totally.
That is so cool.
Then after that, I would have to include in there, at the same time, I have to include in there Clint Eastwood. I have to include in there definitely Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. I have to include these filmmakers in there because these filmmakers, including Spike, are the filmmakers that influenced you at that age of influence. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's very easy, like I'll come up on younger filmmakers and they're like, who's your influence? I'll ask them that same question you asked me. And they're like, oh, Orson Welles and Alfred Hitchcock. And I was like, no, somebody influenced you with those. Who is that one filmmaker you saw something and it really moved you, and you started following, I look at who that was and like who was in the theater, who was that, who were those filmmakers that were making those movies that just was like, okay, we're going to go see that. And that was definitely Spike. That was definitely George Lucas. That was definitely Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg particularly was one where I was heavily influenced because that whole rhythm of his filmmaking from Indiana Jones, those films, the Indiana Jones series, those films came out, especially Indiana Jones 1, came out at a time at my age where it was very influential. Like when I saw that, I was like, okay, I want to create this. This is part of creation I want to do. And being involved with the movie, the whole concept of the music and the speed and the pacing of it and the building of it and the suspense, all these things, that type of visual storytelling were major influences on me. And those are definitely, to this day, those are the things that I are attracted to. Those are the things that's the type of filmmaking that I aspire to. Those are the things that the influences I'll do. Like I work with a younger filmmaker and they'll be telling me, oh, I like this. And I say, okay, I'm like, give me a movie. And they're like, oh, well, what about this one? Okay, I got you. Because again, the pacing, the rhythm, the visual storytelling, major inspirations. Antoine Fuqua, big inspiration to me. I definitely have to put in there also to John Singleton.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely John Singleton. And then last but not least, I have to throw in there Christopher Nolan too. He's, as far as story, he's definitely someone that is a major influence of mine. And I can't wait for Tenet. I can't wait to see what old dude does in Tenet. I can't wait for it. So it's going to be amazing.
What's the last film he created?
Christopher Nolan did Inception. He's yes. So I mean, like Inception and what was the last film he did? I forget the war movie. But he's, what was that?
I was going to say just kind of maybe more popular. I'm not saying none of his films are popular, but more like to someone who may not have knowledge of his films.
Okay, Christopher Nolan. Well, I would say, he did Memento, Inception. He definitely IMDb him and watch his movies. Amazing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, definitely.
That is interesting. Like I said, just based off, I guess, just scratching the surface of what you are capable of doing, I just figured that Spike Lee would be one of those people that you would look up to. Yeah,
definitely Spike. Top inspiration.
For sure.
Again, and I consider myself one of those filmmakers that I do have a lot of varied inspirations, but if I had to put it up there, definitely Spike. He was the one that just like, I can do this. I can do it. I can do this. when you're in a sea of people telling you can't.
That's
Know,
right.
he was the one like, my thing is like, if Spike can do it, I can do it.
Definitely.
And Spike showing me how to do this, so I'm going to do this. So, that was the thing. So, that influenced my training, that influenced my study. It also opened me up to watching other filmmakers. Spike, in the books, he references other filmmakers of influences that he may have had, or music that he may have been thinking about. So that would open my mind and expand, and let me check this out. I got to check that out. So it's definitely the people, those directors that I would consider big influence were the ones that I was introduced to directly, like at that age of influence when you're like, okay, yeah,
Exactly. And Spike Lee definitely has that you can do it attitude.
Oh yeah.
Big time. And so do you. So it makes sense that you look up to him.
Yeah.
I do have a question. Well, not a question, but I'm going to end this segment with some fun questions and a game.
Okay.
All right. So here's the first question. Okay. Since you do read a lot, I mean, you obviously from a kid till now, which book would you love to make a film out of?
Oh, wow. Oh, man. Which book? Oh, man, there's so many. There is a book that I was given that I would like to make a film of called Deadly Impression.
Ooh.
But I can't seem to get anyone to adapt it. So, and again, it's one of those things too that, you get, it doesn't, you're led from one thing to another.
Mm-hmm.
I was introduced to this book when I was on a job, where I was covering the disaster at Hurricane Katrina.
Oh, cool.
And I just happened to be embedded with a team of forensic dentists, and they were like, we would be hanging out, having dinner together through that, and we were going through, a pretty intense time through that whole thing. You get to know each other. The one forensic dentist, Dr. Dennis Asen, and I think he's out there in Pennsylvania. He's like, yeah, I wrote a couple books for Bantam Books back in the day. Some detective novels, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I was like, what? Get out of here. He's like, yeah. I was like, okay. I was like, well, let me read it. Let me see it. So I read it, and it's, I would love to make a movie out of that book. I mean, adapting books to films is pretty difficult. So, if there is one, I would like it to be that one. But, yeah, it's called Deadly Impression. It's, it's old Bantam Books thing, but I would like to do that one.
Okay. I'll have to try to see about that book. I guess my second fun question is, because it's something I really want to know about you. What are your short-term goals for the rest of this year? What you got planned?
Okay, short-term goals. Well, first of all, hopefully we'll be back up for second season of Double Cross, which, if everything goes according to plan, I'm very excited for that. And then, the other thing, too, is I really want this year to really just get a few things together as far as some investments that I'm planning to do, and just finish out this year and close it out, and get another president in office. Because, I'm just keeping it real, I mean, because we only got 6 months left.
Yeah, you're right.
we only got 6 months left.
Mm-hmm.
So, my short-term goals is really for me to take the last 6 months of this year, and really, if we can get another season off the ground, let's do that, and just get everything tidy, nice and clean for 2021.
Sounds beautiful.
That's what I feel.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
I since you just said every time you say something, it leads to another question.
Sure. Go ahead.
Get my interest.
It's your show, Star. It's your show.
Well, thank you. How long does it take to actually shoot a season of a TV series?
Okay. Well, it really depends on what schedule the producers want to do. Double Cross, we did it in 20 days.
Dang.
20 days, which is a rather short schedule.
Yes.
For me personally as a professional, a lot of these series, they run, 8 months, something like that, really heavily produced series, 8 months. For me on an independent level, ideally 6 weeks should be a very bare minimum. 6 weeks.
Right.
And, I think, professionally, just for what I've seen over the years and with my experience, I think 6 weeks should be a bare minimum.
Definitely.
And also, too, we're looking at, having to adapt to new COVID-19 procedures on set. It's going to take a while. And also, too, it's not going to be cheap.
Right.
It's not going to be cheap. So, I think, again, this is a time of great learning, and I think people should take the time to really research and really get studied up, because, when things get cracking back up to speed, be ready. Preparation is key, so the more time you have to prep it, the more smoother it's going to go. And I think, mandatory 6 weeks, should be a minimum.
Wow.
Personally. But again, it just depends on the project. I work on projects that are much longer than that, and then, it's just really what the production wants to do and what it needs.
Okay. That's an interesting answer. You said it's between 20 days and 6 weeks. And more. Yeah. Okay.
But okay. I don't know. Like I said, again, we're still early stages. But I'm just saying, from a personal, professional standpoint, especially with any filmmaker that's interested in creating their own series with multiple episodes, I think, from an independent standpoint, I think 6 weeks should be a minimum. 6 weeks shooting should be a minimum.
Yeah, that actually makes sense.
Yeah, and the reason why I say that, from my experience, is I think 6 weeks is a sweet spot that I've seen that allows a director that the time that they really, really want to really do what they want to do, versus what a director may be like, I ain't got no time. At least, with that type of schedule, I think, it gives the director the time to just walk in on the day and be like, okay, let's what we doing today? What I'm saying? Or what, let me, I find that over the years, I've seen a lot of independent, I've been doing a lot of independent films, the schedules just keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller to the point where they just get ridiculous, to the point where like you're not going to finish what you have on the page. So I think, I think 6 weeks, and they're going to need it. Like I said, you're going to need that prep time. Things are going to definitely go moving slower and stuff on set. And, I think 6 weeks is a minimum.
Okay. Those were good answers to my fun questions, so to speak.
Yeah.
Let's play a game. This game is called Finish the Lyrics. And what I'm going to do is recite some lyrics from a song. And when I say finish the lyrics, you finish the lyrics, basically telling me like what song it is. And if you can guess the artist too, that would be great.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Here we are. Okay. Coast to coast, LA to Chicago, Western Mail, across the North and South to Key Largo.
Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you got it. Which song is it?
A Smooth Operator.
Yep. It's Sade's 1984.
I saw Sade.
Yep.
I saw Sade in the I saw her live a few times.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Was it
when
magical?
Sade come around, you gotta buy a ticket because she don't travel. She don't travel that much, but man, her shows. Sade is the only artist that I've gone and seen live in an arena. And in an arena, the album, it sounds exactly like the album, and they playing it live.
That is dope.
The only one. I'm sorry, Beyonce. I'm the only one.
Dang.
And does it consistently every time. Like when you in an arena and it sounds exactly like the album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like one magical night. Okay. Well, you got that one right. I'm gonna give you another one. Okay.
All right.
Let's see. All right, here we go. Oh, we've got to find a way to bring some understanding here today. Picket lines.
All right. That's Marvin Gaye.
Dang, you good. Yes. That was Marvin Gaye. What's going on? Okay. I see you on top of your game. Oh God. That was good. That was a good game. Thank you so much, Matthias, for coming on today's show. I had a great time with you, literally picking your mind. I've learned a whole lot of things, a lot of tools that I can use to apply to my own career. So thank you.
No problem. My pleasure.
So is there anything you want to say to close out the show?
I just want to say thank you for having me on your show, Star. It's a pleasure. And I enjoyed talking with you and just sharing and imparting what I can. I'm pretty accessible, and I'm always open to working with different artists and independent filmmakers and musicians as well. If you are a musician and you're looking for a unique, a different type of style music video, hit me up. Hit my website. Hit me up. Send me a message on Instagram, whatever. I'm always looking to collaborate, and I enjoy working with newer artists and giving people opportunities to tell their stories. And so, I just want to let your listeners know I'm available.
Definitely. Well, you guys heard it here. If you know any artists, or if you're an artist yourself per se, then hit up Matthias on Instagram. I mean, the name is as it is spelled for the show. So, and he will be readily available to talk to you when he has time, for sure. So with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Speak Your Mind Radio. This is Miss Queen Star signing off, and deuces.